Before we get started, I want to apologize in advance if you hear any cicadas in the background. We're currently in their season of being awake. I don't know, I think I heard like this is a 16-year cycle and this is the year where they wake up and really go ham with how loud they are. I mean, it hurts to walk over and do my laundry because I'm in the middle of the woods, so I'm really sorry if you can hear them, and it shouldn't be too long. I unfortunately don't have a studio. I'm just in my living room in my apartment with a nice mic warranted, and that's kind of what we're working with in 2025, so just bear with me, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the video. Hey there, agents, and welcome back to another... Wait, hold on. Sorry, hold on. What? Maintenance, 1 second. That's not my intro. Sorry, what I meant to say was, what's up, druids, and welcome back to another video. And today, in classic Emberloom fashion, we're going to be talking about a game that doesn't really fall into the category of stuff I would normally make content on, but if you've been around the channel long enough, I've actually talked about it once before, a hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I'm going to be giving my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on the latest Division 2 expansion, The Battle for Brooklyn. I won't give my whole TED talk on why I'm making this video because I really feel like I did that in the Division 1 survival video, but really all you need to know is that this game has been a large part in my online identity, similarly to how Destiny 2 has been around my life for quite a long time. So I just feel like I kind of have a duty, so to speak, to chat about how I feel about this expansion as a player of it for the past few years. But honestly, I can sum up this whole video for you in one short TLDR, and that is the Division 2's Battle for Brooklyn was the DLC that is okay. I mean, it's not bad, it's not groundbreaking, it precisely met expectations, and I think that's what it needed to do because of the current situation that Ubisoft is in and the really small dev team that was behind the development of this. With the resources at hand, this was a really solid entry to the game, and it acts as a new and modern starting point for new players to get into. And for all of that, I mean, it was pretty decent. But then again, I had my expectations in check because the devs have made clear that this isn't a huge expansion like Warlords of New York was. It's more of a story-focused DLC. Before we get started though, I just want to let everybody know who's here watching this, because if you're here watching this, that kind of tells me you're at least slightly interested in this game, to go and check out the content creator Rogue Gold. He is a really solid Division 1 and 2 content creator, and he's always on point with news and game updates, and for me, this is just a one-off video, but if you want to be more in tune with this game, definitely go check him out. Any second that there's news, my man's got a video on it in like 23 minutes, so seriously, go over there, go show him support, because what he's doing is very important for a lot of new and returning players, because when I was returning after taking a 2-year break after Warlords of New York, I had no idea what was going on. There was like a huge story that I was missing, and I didn't know any of the systems, so I watched a bunch of his stuff, got caught up, and was able to do what I'm doing now by giving my thoughts on this DLC. So again, go check out Rogue Gold. He's got your back when it comes to Division content. So I've said story expansion, story DLC a few times already, and that's the first thing I kind of want to talk about, and this falls in the what I liked category, but there really isn't too much to talk about here, quite frankly, without spoiling it. But what I will say is this story takes a really narrow and zoomed in look at the cleaners attacking Brooklyn and the bridge settlement. Hey there guys, Future Ember here, and I just wanted to inject an advanced spoiler warning here for all of you, because while I just said there's not much to talk about here unless I spoil everything, I'm going to proceed to spoil everything in the next few minutes when I'm talking about specific elements that I didn't like. So again, advanced spoiler warning. Anyway, back to the video. The biggest idea and theory for this expansion within the community before it came out was that it was going to really push forward the narrative of the Rogues versus Sokolova and the Black Tusk. But on release, a lot of these elements were missing. Now, they weren't completely excluded, and I won't spoil anything for you, but focusing on a cleaner, heavy story allows them to get in, tell the story they wanted to tell, and get out very cleanly, because there was no room for kind of cliffhangers or loose ends. Massive Entertainment and Ubisoft Bucharest also kind of stated that this was going to be a onboarding point for a lot of new players going into the future. So The story on offer really achieved that, and again, it wasn't really groundbreaking, but it wasn't bad. If you want to see the story, go ahead and play it for yourself. It's a really worthwhile $15, and the way that I kind of describe this to people when they ask me is it was a really fun afternoon. Way back in the good old days, hold on, I'll go get my cane. When expansions like this came out, for example, in Destiny 1, I was able to come home and pretty much complete these expansions in an afternoon without having them bleed over into the following days, not including endgame content. Talking about straight up just the main campaign of expansions. So Battle for Brooklyn really took me back to that feeling of just being able to spend the entire afternoon playing the campaign and finishing it in pretty much one sitting. And I kind of enjoy that. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. They want these to be longer, but it was nice that it respected your time. And that's what I liked most about it. Main missions this time around were also kind of decided to be held off-site. And what this means is that they're not jammed into the actual Brooklyn map of Dumbo and Lower Brooklyn. They are instead like you fly to them in a helicopter. And what this allowed for was really interesting and unique mission locations, from an oil refinery, from an art museum to a terminal. It was pretty awesome to see these different environments, because if they were on the map of Brooklyn, it might have been a little bit limited with the creativity that were kind of able to be put into them. This also contributed to the really awesome set pieces in every main mission. We're not really talking about the side missions, because all of the side missions never really had anything like amazing in them, with the exception of the skate park one. That one was pretty cool. All of the main missions had very unique kind of set pieces and bosses. I've never fought any unique bosses that were as cool as these. Then again, I've never done any raid or incursions because I just don't have the time or the build to do it yet. For instance, when you're going in to take on the cleaner occupied oil refinery, they managed to get their hands on a Black Tusk robot modified with their purple flame armaments. And it hurts, and you usually fight those Black Tusk robots a lot, but they're kind of a pushover here. This thing hurts. And then the final boss of that is more of a big boy that chases you. That's all I'll say. Again, trying to limit the spoilers here, but every mission had a relatively unique boss fight. And finally, these missions were quite well put together. We weren't really sure what this team would be able to do with main missions, since mostly they've just done climax missions for seasons past, but they were pretty good and also had a lot of replayability value. I think this also has something to do with the fact that the main missions were actually able to be played on higher difficulty. I played all of them on challenging, other than the art museum for reasons I'll talk about, but they were all overall really fun, with a lot of surprises. Perhaps you'll see for yourself when you take on the oil refinery and it suddenly starts to blow up on you and you have a very epic escape. Again, the set pieces were also pretty darn fantastic. With the new expansion, we also have a brand new semi-open world map. I say semi because it's only 2 zones. It's still relatively big, but this is the first time in the Division franchise that we actually have a location set in the fall. And that really contributes to how beautiful Brooklyn is when we're able to kind of explore and play around in it. I found like a few hours of mindless fun just walking around exploring because it was genuinely beautiful. The worlds in the Division franchise and the maps we get access to never fail to disappoint. They always have this really cinematic touch to them. And Brooklyn in the fall, with the leaves gently flying through the air and piling up on the ground, is no different. And there was a surprisingly large amount of verticality with the sewers and some rooftops you can go onto. So even though it's a lot smaller than DC and Manhattan, it's still a really fun open world map to play around in. That, and it's chock full of the activities that we're already used to from DC and Manhattan. We have the propaganda broadcast, the hostages, there's 4 control points. It's decent. Like I said a few times already, everything in this expansion can be classified as it was okay. And this open world map was pretty okay. The story and the side quests, the map, the set pieces, action, and just the flow of how you progress through the expansion, that's pretty much everything that I enjoyed. There's a lot more that I disliked, but none of it really takes away from the overall enjoyment that I had. A lot of this is kind of nitpicky and personal preference. But the first thing that I really scribbled down in my notes that I disliked is something that I'm sure a lot of people will probably agree with or have experienced to some level, and that is there felt like there was artificial difficulty bumps nothing naturally flowing felt hard. Like, all of the fights weren't too bad. The environmental navigation wasn't, like, nothing that was built purposely into the expansion felt hard. But what did get hard was the fact that all of the boss fights, alongside relying on warranted really unique bosses, did the classic unlimited respawning enemies to make the fight more challenging than it needed to be. And this stands out the most in the art museum final boss. That mission is long on its own, and getting stuck at the final boss because it's a sniper archetype that can pretty much one hit all of your armor and almost kill you, paired with an invulnerable shield that you had to go and pull levers with and do things to get it to go down, then having the worst enemy types spawning like chargers and, machine gunners constantly really made that fight unnecessarily difficult to the point where it wasn't fun. If the mechanics were hard, if you had to do certain things in a harder order, then sure, but it wasn't. The mechanics were really easy. What made it painful was unlimited spawning ads that made you have to keep rotating cover with a sniper final boss that can hit scan hit you and remove your armor. And by the time you get to this fight, if you weren't min-maxing your armor plates, you might have one or two, and then you have to hope one of the enemies you kill drops more. Honestly, I raged quit. I was on this for a while, and I bumped it down to hard because I just wanted to finish it in the afternoon. And that is something that happens through all of the boss fights. Even the drone I mentioned before, the Black Tusk robot I should say, it wasn't necessarily hard, and it isn't on repeat playthroughs, but if you're going into it blind for the first time, constantly respawning enemies on top of the boss is what makes these fights difficult, not the boss and the encounters themselves. And that just feels kind of cruddy. I'm not sure if there's any alternatives to this other than making the mechanics harder, but I'm sure that would annoy some people too. But anyway, enough of that. Let's move on to the next one. I already said I liked the story, but there were some really weird and unexplained story beats. Now here's a spoiler warning, because I realized I can't really talk about this specific point without spoiling some things that happened halfway through. Consider this your spoiler warning. If you don't want to hear it, perhaps fast forward like a minute or two, but I'll give you a quick second to do that. Alright, for all of you that are still here, there was an interesting moment halfway through where this guy named Matthew Grant starts to make deepfakes of Aaron Keener executing civilians. It is not explained at all. I don't know if I missed an audio log or all of this other things, but it's not really touched on. And it's a cutscene. It's one of the higher rendered cutscenes, not the in-game one. So it was an important moment to be sure. I bumped into a YouTube comment that really perfectly encapsulates how I feel about these weird story beats that just weren't really touched on after they were dropped in front of you. And I'm just going to read this verbatim. The grammar here is kind of iffy, so just hold on tight and bear with me for this. Here's what the comment said. This DLC left me with lots of questions, like what exactly was the Battle for Brooklyn? Why is the random guy Matthew Grant making deep fakes of Keener executing civilians? And what was up with the Black Tusk working with the cleaners? The Black Tusk were getting purple flame from them to upgrade their warhounds, and they were shipping both the new warhounds and purple flames out of the state, and it's never addressed why and what the cleaners were getting from the Black Tusk. They must have had a good thing going, since they shared a conjoined base with cleaners occupying one end, making the purple flames, and the Black Tusk had the bigger part, having a nuclear reactor and storage for the Zeppelin, which was cool as heck to see, and sad it had to go quickly. So there's just a lot of really weird elements here that weren't explained. Why is there deep fake of Keener and these actors literally on a movie set fake killing a civilian? What was the ultimate battle for Brooklyn? Because there was only one set piece where it felt like a battle and it was really quick, and just some of these elements weren't really explained or explored that clearly. I also really didn't like that there wasn't a feeling of threat. I mean, with an expansion called The Battle for Brooklyn, you would expect there to be actual loss and destruction, but outside of that one set piece where the bridge settlements attacked, there really wasn't any threat. And there was a decent amount of threat in the very last 10 to 15 minutes of the expansion, but going into something titled as boldly as The Battle for Brooklyn, you would figure there would be a lot more light versus dark, Lord of the Rings, Helm's Deep moments. Again, I know this was a really small story expansion, but at least more than one moment of a battle actually happening between the different factions. And again, brief spoiler warning here. The Black Tusk twist at the end was really nice to see, as it allowed this expansion to be somewhat connected to the overarching Sokolova narrative, but it was so disjointed, it kind of made me want this expansion to either go full Sokolova or full self-contained story where you didn't even need to know her name, because the second that you get the Black Tusk involved, you're bringing years worth of baggage that no one's really going to understand unless they've been playing consistently over the course of the last few years. We've talked about the good, the bad, now let's talk about the okay, or what I keep coining as eh. And this first one is kind of disappointing, but it's not bad, because I feel like this would be hard to kind of balance, right? And that is the purple flame that the cleaners have access to in this expansion. The big point of the expansion, this new thing, 'cause no new enemy type, no new like faction, you have a new enhancement to the cleaners, which is the purple flame, which actually was teased way back in one of the incursions in the years past. And honestly, this was not a threat at all. Maybe I wasn't playing on high enough difficulty. I was on challenging pretty much the entire time, and this thing just wasn't a threat. If you get hit by it, what it does is it just lowers the total amount of armor that you can have applied. It's a corrosive effect, but it really did not hurt that much. And with the introduction of smart cover, it basically made the blue flame like weak, because you can just smart cover and tank it. I mean, it sucks if you have more combat after that because it doesn't go away quickly, but I had whole missions where this thing was on my health bar and it never really stopped me from being able to just out heal or out armor. So I feel like the purple flame definitely wasn't as much of a threat as it was made out to be in the narrative and the marketing material. I don't know if that's a universal thing or if that was just me because I play a little differently, but I kind of wish it was a little bit more effective if it took more of your armor quickly. But there was times I even got set on fire and nothing happened. So overall, the purple flame, it's cool, but it really wasn't a threat. Secondly, we have the classic NPC problem. With how short this runtime is, I couldn't really care about the emotions the NPCs are trying to convey across the narrative. Even in the side missions when the cleaners were doing horrible cleaner things, it never really invoked much response in me personally. The only time the NPC interactions actually caused me to have some sort of response was between Theo and Sarah. I won't spoil anything there, but there's some good emotional tension there, and that was really the only two that made me kind of care about the situations going on. Again, the runtime's just too short for them to kind of be pushing for the emotional depth that they wanted some of these NPC interactions to have. Finally, we have to talk about control points. Control points are a very core aspect of the game. They are a very important mechanic, and it's how you farm for resources and do certain things. And the control points here in the Battle for Brooklyn actually come with some unique updates. But because, as you can tell, they're in the okay section, they're really not that crazy. They come with unique design flares depending on who has that control point captured. If it's the cleaners, they have turrets that spew purple flame at you, and if it's the Rikers, they just have a rocket turret. Now this is really cool for the first time you do the control point, and after that it just kind of loses its threat, because really all it does is make you approach a control point a little differently and how you navigate around it, because the fuses you have to shoot to get them to turn off the control panels and that stuff, they're static and don't change. So once you have that spot memorized, you can just run in there and shoot it, and then the threat's gone. So they're really not that big of a deal. I think it's cool that they look different, but I feel like if we want control points to be more engaging, there's got to be something else to be done with them. This is definitely a step in the right direction. And again, it's not good, it's not bad, it's eh. And there you have it, guys. Those are my thoughts on the Battle for Brooklyn experience for the Division 2. Now, honestly, for 16 bucks, this is quite worth it. With the current industry that we're living through right now and every AAA game being sold for $80 retail, and I can guarantee you when Mr. GTA 6 comes out over there at probably $100 retail, every AAA studio and their mother is going to be foaming at the bit to sell their games for $100, probably underbaked and half finished. This is just a nice, like, refreshing experience and a really decent amount of content for your money. And it's a nice return to form because Brooklyn is where it all started in the Division 1. This is an area that was expanded upon and is filled with nostalgia. And we've come a long way since the first time we stepped foot here, when snow was gently falling from the sky and we were freshly activated division agents getting ready to see the Green Poison's horrors for the first time. Now we return to seasoned veterans having seen it all, and being able to take on this challenge in Brooklyn, it feels full circle. For 16 bucks, you get a story campaign, 2 open world zones, a bunch of side activities. It's just nice to see the effort put in here. And again, this expansion is the expansion that was okay, but it is definitely worth the money. But I want to hear from you guys, so make sure you leave your comments down below on how you felt about the expansion. And if you're a new player, did this entice you to get into the game for the first time? I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you're notified every time I post a new video. The goal for this year is to see if we can hit 2,000 subscribers. We're already a little bit under halfway there. I know we can do it, but we need all the help we can get. So if you like this content and if you like what I do, feel free to subscribe. Thank you all so much for your love and support over the last year and a half already, which is crazy. We've come a long way. My content has been getting better every single video. I'm really excited to see how the rest of 2025 turns out. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I love all you guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.